ladies and gentlemen, to the MCDFNL Footy Show, our second finals edition, and what a first week of finals it was throughout the Mayorabra-Castlemaine District Football and Netball League last weekend. Sean Kelly's my name, sitting in the host chair as always, and joining me is my co-host Sammy Gower. Sam, welcome back.
Thanks, mate. Glad to be here after a interesting first week of finals.
How did you enjoy the first week of finals?
Yeah, some interesting results. Like I said, probably not the best result for my side.
Correct,
maybe.
which we'll touch on very shortly.
We will, but yeah, good start to the final series.
Yeah, I think it was as well. A couple of nice days weather-wise always helps as well, and great to see some really good crowds throughout the first week of the finals, especially Hedges Oval on Saturday, of course, where I was just dragging them in off the street and making sure they came in and watched and worked well because we had a very, very good crowd.
It was a big crowd up there. Yeah, you've done some nice work up there.
Always do, my friend. Talking point number one for this weekend. We've been talking about our MCDFNL key events for the last couple of weeks, and we're going to do it again because Junior Presentation Night was held last Monday night. Again, a huge crowd in attendance at the Mayorabra Trotting Club up in Carisbrook. Another fantastic night. Again, we put more seats out this year and there were still more people standing up, so just shows how popular this night's become.
Yeah, people have just flocked to see you speak, I think.
Wouldn't say that. Did get a thank you in the acceptance speech from one of the best and fairest winners, but I think they flocked for obviously the barbecue that was put on by the Carisbrook Lions Club and Wattle City Meats. Some very, very sensational kind of work there as well.
I'm sure you sampled some of that.
Just sampled. Didn't go overboard.
Didn't go overboard. That's
No,
good to hear.
Did not go overboard at all, but we congratulate our junior football best and fairest winners on the night. Firstly, under 11 and a half, Tyson Scoble from Trentham. I believe it's back-to-back best and fairest for Tyson as well. Fantastic little player, and he's going to go a fair way, I think.
Yeah, obviously following in the footsteps of his dad, who is the senior coach of the Saints.
He is
Clayton
indeed.
Scoble.
Very well done by Tyson. Under 14 and a half, we saw this one coming early on in the night. Miles Lawrence, first 5 games of the season, 5 BOGs and 49 goals. And when you set up a table like that, I suppose it's hard not to win the best and fairest. He's had a fantastic year and duly rewarded on Monday night.
Yeah, plenty of talk about Miles coming out of Campbell's Creek. I know when the could have been champions were up in Campbell's Creek early this season, he got a mention on the radio.
Yes, well, he definitely got a mention on Junior Presentation Night, and he got a couple of trophies as well because he took home the goal kicking award in the under 14 and a halves as well. And then the under 17 and a half, very exciting count. Riley Bibby from Navarre taking out the best and fairest award. Fantastic to see Riley up there winning that. Is obviously combining under 17 and a half duties with senior duties this year. Has played most senior games as well. Really great stuff by Riley Bibby.
Yeah, scary, I suppose, for opposition sides to see that Navarre's got players like Riley coming through the ranks. Like you said, hasn't looked out of place at the senior level this year at all.
No, it has not indeed. Congratulations to all of our winners from Junior Presentation Night. We now turn our focus towards the biggest night of the year in the MCDFNL Senior Competition, the Barry Powell Medal and Nolda Tracy Trophy Night this coming Monday at the Mayorabra Highland Society. Set to be another fantastic night. Looking forward to seeing Collingwood Premiership captain Tony Shaw do some of his finest work on the podium. But I suppose looking at the main award for the night, the Barry Powell Medal, we couldn't split 3 winners last year. Obviously Sherman, Matt Smith from Talbot, Hayden Kelly from Malden and Michael Dalrymple from Newstead taking home the award. Who do you think are the main fancies for this year's award?
Yeah, you and I had a quick chat before we started filming here and came up with a lot of candidates, so it should be an interesting count. I think maybe Richard Zalantich from Royal Parks had a very good season.
You'd think that somebody from Royal Park's going to be up there?
Yeah, you would, but they might pinch votes off one another, which we've seen in past years.
And we said the same about Carisbrook as well, because a lot of players injured throughout the year, a lot of players taking votes. The hard hat, Jackson Bowen, might get a few under his name as well, but be interesting to see what goes on there. And of course, Big Nose, third in the goal kicking for the year, he might slide in for a few votes as well, and thanked us for the stitch-up the other week as well, the other day.
I'm sure he was very, very pleased with
that. He was.
Another team where players might pinch votes from one another is Navarre. Cody Driscoll obviously had a great season in front of goal.
Yep.
Jaden Folkes, another good young player. Tom Douglas from Natty.
Yes.
One of our great friends, Sherman, who you gave a nice little plug there, might poll well.
He would probably be on the phone now if we didn't mention him, because he thinks he's a big chance for back-to-back.
I'm sure he does. But like last year, maybe teams outside the top 8 who have had standout players.
Or lower on in the 8.
Yeah. You mentioned Michael Dalrymple, obviously one of last year's winners, had another good season for Newstead, and Mark Strickland from Trentham also had a very good season, so it should be an interesting count.
Yeah, it should be indeed. Keep an eye on the MCDFNL's Facebook pages. If you can't make it there, Facebook and Twitter, our operations manager of the league, Aaron Nunn, will be updating those throughout the night. So if you can't make it to the count on the night, keep an eye on the social media and we'll make sure Nunny's got that up and running throughout the night. Talking point number 2, a bit of a review of the 2 qualifying finals played on Saturday. Firstly, the game you were at down at Princes Park, Royal Park taking on Carisbrook. In the end, Carisbrook ended up being a bit too strong.
They did a bit of a repeat, I suppose, of their earlier win over Royal Park just a couple of weeks ago. Carisbrook just probably moved the ball a little bit better on a smaller ground. Whereas Royal Park couldn't play that game that we know they've played all year, where they rely on their precision kicking and moving the ball along the wide wings of Hedges Oval. Whereas I think the likes of Cole Rosscollar, Nick Wright, guys like that delivering into the Carisbrook forward line and being able to find space, I think they were probably the difference. Yeah,
very good win by Carisbrook, moving them through to a preliminary final. And the other qualifying final on Saturday at Hedges Oval, Navarre taking on Natty Bialaba. And we talked up last week how games between these two sides in the finals are always close. This was the exception. Navarre just looked fantastic with the way they were moving the football. They had this one done and dusted early on in the piece. And Natty Bialaba, it was a tough day for them. They just kicked 1 goal for the day. They were going, I thought they went okay. They were moving the football out of the back line through the midfield okay, but they got to half forward and it was just like they didn't really have a target to kick to. Navarre were just dropping back, taking the footy, starting their overlap and really just launching the attacks from there. They looked like the Navarre of old. There's absolutely no doubt about that, whereas Natty, I think, has got a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, Navarre certainly did look very impressive in the short passage of play that I saw after I left when I saw the scoreboard. But, like you said, Navarre back to their best and looks pretty ominous for other teams heading into the grand final.
Yeah, it does indeed. Navarre winning their way through to another preliminary final. Talking point number 3, a quick review of the elimination finals and 2 games that were a lot closer than their Saturday counterparts. At Princes Park, Trentham taking on Talbot. Trentham were a huge show in this one. I think it was approaching time on in the last quarter. They were 12 points up. Mark Strickland's had a shot that could have put them almost 3 goals up and would have really put Talbot in some danger there. And then all of a sudden he's missed that. Talbot's got the machine going, kicked the last 5 and ended up winning this one with a bit of a leg in the air. Really tough game for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah, it certainly was, and full credit to Trentham. They looked like they belonged at finals level.
They did.
But Talbot just found a way to win, and good on the Hawks.
That's what good sides do, and that'll really hold them in good stead moving into a semi-final this weekend. And the other game at Hedges Oval on the weekend, Newstead taking on Lexington. Newstead, as we tipped last week, moving into the semi-finals, but probably a little bit closer than what a lot of people would have expected. Lexington coming back well towards the end of the game,
Yeah, we spoke last week about these two sides probably being up and down in terms of their form, and they were both up on the weekend. Newstead just getting the job done in the end.
Yeah, they did indeed, which sets up a pretty big week of semi-final football this weekend. All games from here on in at Princes Park, the only venue that will be used for MCDFNL footy from here on in for season 2016. And Saturday is first semi-final day. The under 11 halves will see Lexington take on Campbell's Creek. The under 14 halves will see Lexington taking on Newstead. The under 17 halves is Natty Bialaba versus Navarre. The reserves is Newstead versus Talbot. And then in the seniors, Royal Park versus Talbot. Royal Park, can they readapt to obviously playing on Princes Park against a Talbot team that's going to take it right up to them?
Yeah, I think last weekend's hit-out will benefit Royal Park. Like you said, though, Talbot will be out to cause an upset. I'm going to back the Tigers. I just think they'll have a little bit too much class.
You'd think that you're right. They'll have a little bit too much class for Talbot. It'll be a tough game because Talbot will really give themselves a big chance. I think there was about 5 goals in it when these teams played in the home and away season, but you just think that Royal Park, with the season that they've had, it would be an absolute travesty if they went out in straight sets and didn't get past this second week of the finals. I think they'll be able to regroup. I think they've got enough class, as you said, in the team to keep going and get this win and move into a preliminary final. And, of course, their preliminary final matchup, if they get through this week, they take on Navarre.
Yeah, which will be a really big test, but they have to get through this game against the Hawks,
which is no fait accompli.
Yeah, the Hawks will definitely come out fired up. I know Matt Smith and Dallas Byers have done a lot of work with this Talbot group, and they won't want it to go to waste.
They won't indeed. As I said, I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. It'll be an absolute ripper on Saturday at Princes Park. And then on Sunday, Also at Princes Park, second semi-final day. The under 11 halves is Carisbrook versus the Maryborough Rovers. The under 14 halves is Carisbrook versus Avoca. The under 17 halves is Newstead versus Campbell's Creek. The reserves is Carisbrook versus Navarre. And in the senior game for the right to take on Carisbrook in a preliminary final next week, Natty Bialaba taking on Newstead. A couple of teams that have been, as we know, Newstead's been a bit up and down, but they're into this second week of the finals. They can give Natty a run. They troubled them earlier this year. If Natty bring what they brought last Saturday, I think they're going to be in a bit of trouble. But that being said, they've got some improvement to make, and I think Jared Bateson will be able to get them up for this week.
Yeah, hopefully that's just a one-off for Natty. Probably their worst performance for the year, and just a disappointment that it came in a final. I think they'll bounce back, but games between these two sides are always really close. Newstead seems to rise to the occasion against Natty, and I don't think this will be any different.
Couple of teams that match up pretty well against each other. Who do you think are the keys? Obviously, looking from a Natty perspective, as you do, who do you think are the keys for your team in this match?
Like you said, Natty struggled to get the ball inside their forward line last week, so I think they'll look to the likes of Tom Douglas, Daniel Gifford, Stephen Ross to deliver inside that forward line, but it's a matter of finding a target. We know they don't have Emmett Smith at their disposal once the ball hits the ground anymore, so Jason Hunt, I think, is the key for Natty.
Yeah, it was very well held last weekend. They missed Daniel Vidala as well, and just that bit of grunt in the packs and through the midfield as well, so they'll be hoping that he can come back in for this week.
Yeah, they will. Zach Perez also out for the rest of the year for Natty. Broke his hand in play last week, so he'll be sorely missed.
He will indeed. A big loss for Natty. You're tipping Natty, of course.
I am.
I think that it's a hard one. Going on what I saw last weekend, I'm not confident, but you just think that they've got enough improvement in there that they can lift their game and get over this one in what I think will be a pretty tight game. But that being said, you can't write the setters off.
Yeah, if you can look past last weekend's result, I think you'll see, Natty has been the higher quality team this season, but funny things happen in finals.
They certainly do indeed, and we can't wait until next week's MCDFNL Footy Show to tell you exactly what's happened in those couple of games that we just mentioned and how our preliminary finalists will shape up going into the biggest round of the season. Sammy, thanks for joining us once again.
Pleasure, mate. Happy to be here.
And thank you for joining us once again here on the MCDFNL Footy Show. We'll see you next week.